Hi, my name is Mick Rogers from Axial Benefits Group, and today we continue the series that we started now some 16 weeks ago when we all went into the quarantine. In those first days of the quarantine, we heard so many of you with your thoughts, your anxieties, and we thought it would be helpful to get experts, a small group of hand-picked experts to do a video format answering the questions in their expertise, right? So the areas of expertise that we did these sessions were, of course, around employee benefits and retirement plans, but employment law, HR policies, financial issues, the PPP, et cetera. Then, of course, we had to sort of come out and relearn how to come back to work and reintegrate back into the work environment. We did some sessions on that as well. The reality is that as the year has progressed, we find ourselves in a time frame where we're in the thick of our pre-renewal planning for most of our clients. And we've been getting a lot of questions regarding the specific integration of a health and welfare plan, a healthcare program, and their 401k, and is an HSA sort of that bridge in between? So we got enough of these questions that I thought it was worth having this session today. So today, actually, by focusing on that, and while most of you think of us, of course, as employee benefits experts with our healthcare purchasing coalition expertise, the reality is we have one of the largest corporate retirement practices in New England as well. And today's guests are the gentlemen that run the large group practice, Rich Sotel and Jeff Sutton. I won't go into a lot of details about their bios or all the awards that they've won. But when they joined Axial about 18 months ago, when we merged the then Cramerton company, a company Rich created in 1982, and rolled everything into the Axial Benefits program. I'll just mention sort of from my perspective, I just don't think that there's a couple of folks in the 401k industry that's more qualified to answer these questions, and I hope you think that as well. So welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Thanks, Mick. Thanks, Mick.
So I think a lot of the folks that sort of know my history and know sort of our underwriting background and our healthcare expertise may find it funny that I'm interviewing two financial professionals about an HSA healthcare program, but we're really not focusing on the healthcare program portion of it, right? I mean, we're really focusing on the HSA accounts and the benefits of those. So, and what I've realized, certainly over the course of the last 18 months of meeting you, the two of you, and working with you, is that maybe part of the reason that these HSAs have never gotten as popular as they should be is because the wrong people, the employee benefits consultants, are doing the education. And we really can't articulate, the fine details of how these might work into a longer term retirement plan. So I'm hoping that that's really sort of the perspective of all the questions. And I think I'm gonna just dig right in, and Rich, I'll start with you. The term HSA is thrown around a lot. And certainly there's a ton of mystery and confusion about it. Can you tell us briefly how the accounts work?
Sure. HSA stands for Health Savings Account. It's basically a savings and investment account that the individual owns, that is set up usually through payroll deduction, and it's funded by the employee, by the employer, or a combination of the two. And the employee can use that money with a credit card that they bring into the doctor or they bring to the pharmacy, and they basically use it to cover those expenses not covered by the medical plan, deductibles, et cetera, et cetera. And it can be used for their current medical expenses or their medical expenses after they retire.
Great. And I think we're going to specifically talk about sort of the benefits of the employees and the employers, but the overall theme, I think, that everyone sort of understands that in general, the game for an employer to play is to move their richer program, their more expensive program, to an HSA qualified healthcare program, and there's a significant savings of premium or claims, depending on what their funding is in that environment. I think what folks don't necessarily get is the tax benefits to the employees, the tax benefits to the employer, and then of course from an employee benefit standpoint, that they run 10, 12% better than the rest of the group. So let's start with the employee. There's a lot of incentives that the government gives the employees to participate in the HSA. Jeff, can you run through a couple of them?
Yeah, certainly, Mick. There's some really great government incentives here, and I'll put you on the spot. Are you familiar with the term triple tax-free?
Certainly, but I think it's, again, I think that could be like one of the keys here is I don't think that there's enough familiarity with it. So Jeff, please let us, please explain.
Yeah, let me explain. I mean, this is a term that you're not going to see anywhere else in employee benefits other than in the HSA. So here's what you get. Now, the employee is going to deposit into this account on a pre-tax basis. So what I mean by that is we're talking federal, state, Medicare, and in most instances, Social Security. So a lot of pre-tax contribution going into the account. Now, the money is also invested and the earnings grow tax-free as well. And if used for qualified medical purposes, the money is going to be withdrawn tax-free, triple tax-free.
Right. So there's a lot of really solid benefits for the employees to sort of build this money up over time, tax-free. Rich, what about the employer? And I think that this is the one that's really critical, that's missed by most employee benefits firms out there and is not able to articulate the benefits to the employer.
Well, as you know, Mick, we got started on 401k, and from the 401k, when you put the money in, the employer doesn't have to pay the taxes on it. But the advantage that HSA has above and beyond, say something like a 401k contribution, is the employer gets deductions for the employer portion of the Social Security taxes. So if I'm paying as an employer 7.65% on, call it $5,000 that somebody might put in one of these plans under a family basis, I'm going to get that deduction on that contribution that's made into the plan. So it's deductible not only from the employee's perspective, but also from the employers in a way that most of the plans are not.
Right. And again, I think that this is a really big part that's missed, that if folks are looking at an analysis of one plan versus the other, they're missing this tax component, or the Medicare tax component is not going to be paid on the money. So that there should be, as much education as possible to try and get the enrollment for the HSAs as large as we can, right?
Absolutely.
So let's go to some specifics if you don't mind. Jeff, let me bounce back to you. If I was an employee and I had a high deductible plan offered and I had an HSA account offered, I should just put the amount of the deductible into the account and I'll just be all set.
Well, that's what most employees think, and I think that's where they're missing the boat in some respects, because this account can work so much harder than that for these employees. So let me kind of run through some numbers here so that we're on the same page. A typical healthcare deductible is $1,500 for single coverage and $3,000 for family coverage each year. But the amount you can contribute to an HSA is much higher. In 2020, it's $3,550 for single coverage and $7,100 for family coverage. And given all the tax advantages, it would make a lot of sense to maximize these limits. And contributing the maximum, would help create a pool of medical savings that can be used in the future in retirement.
Right, and you guys know this because when we integrate these plans, you see this and you talk about it, right? But the reason why those deductibles are $1,500, $3,000 is really that's what's offered by the carriers, right? So that's the mentality of sort of why it is. And I think it's great that you're educating them on why you should sort of be putting in more. So Rich, not to put you on the spot a little bit, but you look a little bit more closer to the retirement age than Jeff. How about folks that are running up against retirement? Some of the advantages that they might have for using an HSA?
Well, being over 50, I'm the one who usually ends up counseling the folks who are over 50. And the biggest fear that people have about retirement is what it's going to cost them for medical expenses after they retire. I mean, it's a great unknown, and quite frankly, it's the largest single expense that seniors have. So, the fact that, they're going to need, there was a study run by Fidelity that said, if you're retiring today, husband and wife, typical husband and wife need close to $400,000 spendable Medicare expenses, medical expenses after 65 and until, they're no longer on this side of the grass. And people wonder where they're going to get that money. As Jeff had alluded to earlier, you can overload your HSA with extra deductible contributions that you don't use during your lifetime for the deductibles, and you can use them during retirement. And there's a bunch of advantages there. Number one, the largest expense that you're going to have is now going to come out tax-free, which then reduces your actual income tax. So you're going to have more spendable income than if you hadn't done this. And then the other thing, which hardly anyone knows, is that the premium you pay for Medicare depends on your taxable income. I mean, you could end up paying X, or you could end up paying 6 times X in premium. And by having this big expense paid pre-tax, you put yourself in a lower taxable bracket, you pay a lower premium. It's a virtuous circle of benefits that exist.
I think what you just said is so important that it's probably worth just digging into that a little bit more. Can you tell us how the A and B works, and where your income falls at that point is how much premium you pay? Can you just expand on that a little bit?
I'll give you the extreme example, okay? And these are round numbers. About $135 a month is what you pay for the Part B of your Medicare. In other words, it comes right out of your Social Security check.
Right.
You could pay as much as $600, $500 to $600 a month if you're in the highest tax bracket. Well, if you're taking $25,000 or more a year out of, let's say, your 401k to make medical expense, that's part of your taxable income. The more you add to your taxable income, the higher your taxable income becomes, the higher the premium you actually have to pay. So if you can pay your most expensive item out of an account that you got a deduction for up front, grew tax sheltered, and it comes out tax-free, then you're going to be in a lower bracket. It's going to cost you less because you've had this triple tax-free subsidy, and the premium you actually do pay to Medicare is going to be reduced too. And I mean, here's what I find, Mick. I mean, Jeff and I both have CFP degrees.
Yep.
And we find that very, very few people look at things in one, holistic way.
Right.
It's all these different silos. And, you have to look at it as a combination. And one of the things that I spend a lot of time on with individuals is to sit down and say, okay, you've got so many dollars. How should we allocate in between 401k and HSA to get you what you need and the best possible advantage of the
and I think what you're doing here is that you're building my case that I laid out up front, which is why an employee benefits consultant can't get that deep with a one-on-one. But if you're sitting down with the employees and you're doing their 401k retirement already, and you're looking at sort of the holistic picture of how to integrate this HSA that the company gets all kinds of benefits for, it's a complete win, right? And it's a really sort of complete picture. And that's why, when you guys integrate the HSA with the 401k and we use that education component, that's why our participation skyrockets, right? There it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So All right, so last question, and it's more of an opinion piece sent out to you guys, because there's so much good about the HSAs, and I think that people bark about them all the time as almost too good to be true. But what do you guys think? Let me start with you, Rich. Where do you think the disconnect is that causes these plans to be underutilized? I guess maybe from the employee standpoint first.
Well, from the employee standpoint is they're never given any kind of education. And as I said, they're fed, one set of messages on the health plan. They're fed a different set of messages on retirement that usually is exclusively about the 401k. And they don't understand that the HSA as the bridge is neither fish nor fowl. It can help on the medical, it can help on the retirement, and how does it integrate into the overall structure? And where do I put the money? And where does the first dollar go? Where does the middle dollars go? Where does the final dollar go of my personal money, to make it work for me? And every situation is different, and that's why we sit down and do this usually one-on-one with people.
Great. And Jeff, some final thoughts. Where's the disconnect from your mind?
Yeah, I think there's such a huge need for this, and we're really trying to bridge that gap and make sure people understand the connection between the health and the retirement. And it really does take, some structuring, and with a properly structured health and retirement plan, the employer, can put this together, make a comprehensive education program for the employees. And this could be such a really nice and enhanced benefit program that, the employees won't only appreciate and value, but, potentially is going to save the employee and the company money in the long run.
Right. And I know that you've created a special analysis that sort of incorporates all these different pieces for the employers and the employees. So what I want to do is thank you both for your time. Super helpful, super informative. As always, we'll include your contact at the end of this short video. If anyone wanted that type of analysis, they can contact you direct. So I really appreciate both your time. And of course, lastly, just like we close every session, we've all worked so hard to fight our way through this quarantine, and we sort of, at least here in New England, are starting to see a way out. So please, let's not give up, anything that we've worked hard for. And, in this crazy time, be safe and keep your eye out for other clips as part of this series as we go on. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.